Good evening, Simon here, Explosive Action, back again for another metal vinyl update. This time I've got 6 original press 80s and one 1991 album to take a look at, so let's get into it. I think I may have mentioned before that it's been a bit difficult to find some of the 80s press stuff recently. There's still a few things out there, but I've got a lot of it. And, trying to find those rare, strange things like little one-and-done bands from 1985 that nobody's talked about in 20 years. It hasn't been showing up as much lately locally that it has in the past, but I have managed to get 6 things here to talk about. And the first one I've briefly talked about in my latest shopping video. I picked this one up. This is the one from Cat, 38 Minutes of Life. Please note the incorrect spelling of minutes. I mean, I suppose it still says minutes, it's just missing the E. But whatever, we can't hold that against it. It's a ripper. This is a real ripper, absolutely, this thing. This is a live album from 1987. It was recorded in various gigs in Poland from between 86 and 87. And honestly, if it wasn't for the crowd noise, which kind of sounds like it was pasted in later, I don't know, it just does a bit. If it wasn't for that crowd noise before tracks, sometimes a little bit of cheering during tracks, it just sounds like a pretty raw Eastern European recording. Like, doesn't sound particularly live. So yeah, it's a good recording, I suppose, what I'm trying to say here. Performing tracks mainly from the Metal and Hell album, which at this point was the only one they had out. Came out the year before, I think. Also called 666. One of those deals, band from Poland. Dragon was the same. They released a English named version of the album, which was had English lyrics, and then they had the original language version. In their case here, it was Polish, and that was the only album they had out. But this has got live tracks from that album, and it's got a couple of tracks from the as yet unreleased second album, which has a Polish title I'm not even going to try and say, but is translated roughly to The Breath of Dead Worlds. It's a pretty good title if you translate it. I quite like that, and I'd love to pick that one up. It's got a very cool cover. It's just really well recorded live tracks from the previous album and a couple from the one that came after it. The band really is on fire. Sounds pretty youthful, very energetic, fast, pretty tight considering, which makes me wonder, I don't know how much work was done in the editing department afterwards. Though, this was 87, so perhaps not that much. Just, I don't know, but it does sound pretty tight, I guess. Angry vocals in this that are just spewed out with lots of reverb, which is very, very cool. I showed it last time, a bit of a thrash collage there on the back. Touring here with Metallica in 87. So, this is not only a thrash collage that you're looking back at, it's a thrash collage probably when this thing was pressed, happened like months before. It's an 87 pressing of an 87 live tour, and they played with Metallica in 87. So, Master Puppets and just on kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. And other good photos here in the background. There's Metallica there with Cat. See them there. So out on the Pol Jazz label. I incorrectly said last time it was something like Polyaz, because the J doesn't have a little loop on it. Pol Jazz. Don't know why I took it out, it's black. Record's immaculate. After I gave it a wet clean, it sounds basically new. The whole thing, I think I said last time, is basically new. It's incredibly good condition. So anyway, I'm not too sure what was doing on Pol Jazz. It's Polish, but there's no jazz on this, so who knows. If any idea why it was on that label, somebody let me know. But otherwise, 38 Minutes of Life, really good live album. We're staying in the Eastern Bloc for this next one. We've got some speed metal, also from 1987. We'll talk about the condition soon enough, trust me. Out of Hungary this time. This is Pokolgep, I think is how you say it. And this title here, Pokoli Sinjatek. Sure. No idea what that translates to. I didn't actually check that. But look at that glorious cover. It's just everything you want from late 80s heavy metal. So good. This is the second full length from this band. It's a band that originally I was not that interested in. I heard in one of the shops I go to. There was a later album from the band. I can't remember the name of it. It's in Polish anyway. Kind of blue and has like a brain on it. I listened to it in the shop and thought it was pretty weak. So I put it back and went, it don't always have to win. I put it back and forgot about them. But then I saw, I think it was it's Nuclear War Now or Iron Bonehead, one of those two labels was reissuing a lot of this stuff. And the first two albums particularly was getting reissued. It might have only been last year or the year before. So I started seeing that around. Got a bit interested because they were getting, people were pretty excited about those things. And, I thought, what was I missing? Anyway, the opportunity for this came up very cheap, and we will talk about the condition. So I grabbed it, and I'm really happy with it. Take a look on the back here. There's the band. Bunch of sex magnets. Look at that. Absolutely outstanding. The tracks, it's all in Hungarian, so I got no chance whatever to try and say what's going on there, but I did translate a couple of them. The first track, Tok Fej, whatever, I've said that wrong, translates to Pumpkinhead. I think that was that one, yeah. Which is pretty great translation. The lyrics seem to be vaguely about somebody essentially saying, we're not going to take it. So, kind of Twisted Sister. But it's a ripper of a track, absolute belter. And there's clearly some classical training somewhere in this band. The riffs, the leads particularly, quite fantastic. All moves at a fast pace. They seem to be quite well educated, these guitarists here. These two guys here are the guitarists. I reckon my money's on this guy here. He's got a bit of a Yngwie kind of look going on. I reckon it was him. Absolute ripping of an opening track. The second track, as sort of happens with 80s metal, like you get your first track and it just blows you away. The windows open, everything's falling over. It's like glass shattering. It's such a great track. And the second track slows it down. It's half pace. It's not necessarily a worse track, but it is. We've gone from 45 RPM to 33. That's exactly what happens on this one. Polar opposite of the first track. It's chuggy. It's simpler riffs, much deeper vocals. So some background chanting and things. This is pretty much a speed metal album, I guess. It's never really thrash. Sort of somewhere between heavy, like really heavy metal and speed metal is where this kind of lives. And that alternating speed between fast, slow is really a theme on this whole album. The speed metal tracks go into then a mid-pace groove and then back to something really fast. It works really well. Doesn't always work for me, but it works really well on this one. The third track on this, I didn't note the name, is sort of the token power ballad, but it's a bit early in the album to have your power ballad actually, but it's pretty standard stuff. It's fine. I have some acoustic guitar, but it's not an offensive power ballad, so that's good. It was a pretty decent track. The fourth track, which does translate to Confession, that rips into it really fast again. Quite a straightforward metal attack on that one, with a really killer solo, really good guitar solo, and just general lead guitar display. Really, really good track. The dual guitars from our mates here, Fake Yngwie, and I don't know, what's he wearing there? I can't work out what he's got. Anyway, that's Kukovex Gabor, Mr. Gabor. The dual guitar between those guys is really, really special. Really enjoy how they play. The side A closer, which I didn't get the name of, it's kind of got this menacing riff that would suit something like Cowboys from Hell a couple of years later. It's really got a menacing, chuggy sound to it. Did remind me of something that Pantera would pick up a bit later, so that was cool. Whereas the side B opener, that was very German sounding, very just rough German metal, sort of like Accept, something along those lines, and the rest of the band contributing to like really gritty chorus sing-along vocals, but still those classical touches came through. The next track is called, and I can say this one because it's written right there, 666, the number's 666. It is speed metal fury. And I learned through the lyrics on this one that the line, brace yourself, hat, 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 then hat, 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 then hat, then hat, hat. translates to 666. So I learned some Hungarian today, and I'm very proud of myself. And it also has a killer solo in it, so awesome stuff. And then, yeah, the next few tracks on here follow that pattern of killer chugs to then ripping speed. So, yeah, it all ends then with like this little 1 minute sort of jokey thing. You know, like the thrash bands later would start doing like a jokey sea shanty kind of thing. It's got smashing bottles, and like you can hear the band stumbling around. Yeah, like tankard kind of thing. It's fun. It just ends it. It's completely redundant, but whatever. And yes, okay, so the record, it has been partied on. It's pretty obviously been partied on. The edges have been taped. Something has eaten the corner. And the record itself, man, I don't know if it'll come up. It's, yeah, don't know if that's going to come up very well, but she's been played at a few Hungarian parties, I think. So I was a bit worried. I knew this going in, and it was priced accordingly. I mean, seriously accordingly. This was absolutely dirt cheap. And I just, I took the seller's word on it that it was playing fine for him, and that once I gave it a bit of a bath, it would sound better. It does. It's got a light crackle all the way through. It's been played a million times, but it plays fine. No skips, no jumps, and it's generally, quite a good listening experience. So I'm happy with it. I would happily find an upgrade one day. But yeah, here we are with Pokolgep, and whatever the hell that says, really good second album from this band. Next up, we got some Canadian metal from 1986 on Neat Records. I like finding Neat Records stuff. This is Deaf Dealer, Keeper of the Flame. This is really, really excellent. Yeah, I really enjoy playing this one. It is like the first opening track on this one's called Don't Get In My Way, and it feels like a mission statement. And it really does also show the vocal talents of one Michael Flynn, the vocalist here. He hits those high notes, gives it a good go, has lots of chuggy driving riffs. There's a second guitar in here that has a really nice solo in that particular track. The drums are really peppery. I always like that when the drums are really nice and peppery. The whole thing is really good, but that opening track is pretty special. Here's the band there on the back, 5-piece. Second track is simply just called Deaf Dealer. It's heavier, slower, solid groove. It's that, opening track fast, second track not so fast. I hear a little bit of something like, Lord Weird's slow fare in the approach here, without the weird, I suppose. It's pretty straightforward. These guys are playing it straight with a bit of that Canadian flair. Like there's no humour here. Absolutely. There's flames, there's leather, and there's Canada. And yeah, it's really good. The third track is On the Wings of a Russian Foxbat, which I assumed was a plane. I looked it up, and yes, I was correct. It was a plane. It's a little instrumental, and yeah, similar to the last one. We had the third track with the ballads so early. Having an instrumental at track 3 seems a little early, but here we are. Good little instrumental. No problems with that one. Quite tasteful. Fourth track, The Fugitive, has a bit of a sort of kill 'em all or killing is my business kind of speed metal, just about thrash kind of attack on it. It's really good. The riffs are quite familiar. That's why it reminded me of those two albums. Ends with some basically some trem picking and double kick barrage. Very aggressive track. Probably my favorite one on the album. Really good one. There's Dead Zone, another good track, but then side 2, Saddest. That's another fast one, just like the opener, Don't Get In My Way. These guys really like that fast sort of single note down picking, just like they really do like that as the main riff, and then they accentuate it with lead guitar doing little melodies and lots of flourish around the edges. I guess that's kind of the Iron Maiden influence. There's definitely some Iron Maiden going on in this. The next track, Free and Easy. We've got your token sleazy one now. It's the 80s still. I mean, come on. It plays fast and well, but the chorus has the band singing in kind of a Motley Crue kind of style. Sherry, oh Sherry, please come and take a chance. I didn't really need that. Could have done without that, but look, yeah, it is what it is. Even the verse has the lines, come with me and I'll show you the way. All night long, we'll get laid. But we're back into the familiar down-picking chugs for the next one. In the bridge after the second chorus, they hit double pace in probably the most thrashy part of the album. That's on Getting Ready to Go. And the last track, Caution to Kill, is probably the most Iron Maiden-ish kind of one so far. So, yeah, good album. These guys formed in 1984 with the correctly titled band name Death Dealer. For some reason, they changed it on this album to Death Dealer. Not too sure what the story is there, but then in 2014, this is where it gets interesting. The band released a second album, which was actually recorded in 1987 and then shelved. The label, for some reason, refused to release it at the time. Don't know why. It was just never released. So they finally released that. I haven't heard it, but it's recorded in 87, so it might be good. And they released that as Death Dealer. And they've then since changed their name now to Death Dealer, and made another album, and they're still active. So Death or Death, whatever, it's a really good band. Keeper of the Flame. Take a quick look inside, just on black. But yeah, it has that nice, neat records inner circle. And yeah, really happy with this one. Great little album here from a band that I didn't know much about, Death Dealer, Keeper of the Flame. Check it out. Next up, we have the self-titled debut from Steeler. This is not the American LA Steeler from 1983. This is the tough as nail German Steeler from 1984. Two Steelers in such a short period of time. This really just bursts out of the gate with another speed metal ripper. Really good track. Fast, chuggy riffs, wailing vocals. Really good leads on that one. And why are they so good? This is the band that Alex Rudy Pell first was in, and was in this band until 89. Then he went solo, and that's what he's doing these days. But this was his band, so good guitar. Yeah, absolutely fantastic opening track, but then it slows down after that to a more deliberate pace. Here we are again, second track slowing down. Bit more subdued. It kind of just rocks out. And as does the third track, which is called Heavy Metal Century. Great name. Sort of gets that Motorhead grit going into it, and sort of big, heavy drinking riffs on that one. That's a lot of fun. And Sent From Evil, another good track, and then A Long Way. That's the closer for side A. So yeah, that's heavier and slow, and the rhythm has the rhythm and the bass have like a really thick chunk to them. The drums have a really huge pound going on. It's not quite doom slow, but the riffs feel a bit more Sabbath adjacent at this point, which going from a speed metal opener down to sort of Sabbathy at the end here, it's a bit of a mix-up. And honestly, that first track is about the only real time that you get that speed metal sound in the band. So yeah, we move on to side 2. And this is where we get our sleazy ones again. So we get a couple of sleazy ones in a row. Call Her Princess. Pretty rocking track as usual, but here's some lyrics, some examples of the prose. She's 19, dressed in black, and rides onto the tower. That's a quality one there. Followed up by Love for Sale. Apparently it's for sale. And good line on this one would be, no more love, go down and sleep, close your eyes, don't think of meat. MEAT. Whatever. It's the 80s. It's just what happened. There's our vocalist. Of course it looks like he would write that. Absolutely. My God, look at these guys. Mustache. 3 without mustache, 2 with mustache. Anyway, very manly looking German guys. Final track on this one, Fallen Angel. That's the power ballad type thing. But a real heavy kind of power ballad. Like, it starts with a clean guitar, has a bit of crooning. It does still have power behind it. It's a power ballad. Something akin to like Fade to Black. Like, when it's heavy. So that was a good one to end on. Overall, this is pretty much like, as you can see here, it's spiked leathers, it's spiked gloves, it's headbanging, it's Judas Priest, it's Accept, it's balls out metal with some sleazy numbers and a speed metal opener. Yeah, it's good, and I would have liked to hear more of that fast pace like the opening track. A couple more tracks like that would have been really appreciated, but yeah, 3 more albums under Steeler, and then Alex went out and did his solo stuff. So taking a look inside very briefly, we get, is there a lyric thing in there? Yep, there is. Hasn't been on some of these. No, do I take that back? It is just the... No, there it is. I don't know what I've got in here. There's the inner lyrics. And, yep, on Earthshaker Records, there's a glorious band photo there of Steeler. Isn't that lovely? And, yeah, here we are. Take a look at the vinyl. Again, it's just black, but it is a nice condition press out on Earthshaker Records. I've never heard of that label before. But, yeah, no problems with the pressing on this one at all. So that is Steeler with a very unexciting sort of razor blade looking cover there, but it does the job. Steeler, self-titled, 1984. Next up we have, and I was really happy to add this one, quite cheap to the collection, Overkill, Under the Influence. This is the third album from Overkill, the original Megaforce pressing here from 1988. I had this on CD, but given that I had the debut album, Feel the Fire, on LP, made sense to have this one on LP as well, and the price was right, so I picked it up. Overkill, I mean, you're watching this, you all know who Overkill are. They're roughly, I mean, they're thrash. It's sort of in that Exodus Nuclear Assault style of thrash, and they're really, really good. At least the early stuff for me. Now, the later stuff, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but on this one, Under the Influence, absolutely firing on all cylinders. The opening track called Shred, take a look at the back here, there's the band. Shred, what a great name for a track. It certainly does what the title suggests. Shredding guitar, bass rumbles, really fast, thrashy drums, lots of double kicks, and a wild solo over the top of all of it. And yeah, vocalist Bobby Blitz, his vocals are on point here. And that's my point here with Overkill. After this album, I can't really gel with his style. After this one, I think it's the one after this one where it starts to change a bit. He has this weird squeal in his clean singing, and it really dominates going onwards. I've not checked out anything they've done like really super recently, so I can't talk about that. But the ones I checked out immediately following this album, the vocals were just a bit hard to digest for me anyway. So yeah, I've just got so far the debut and this one. I'm missing the second one, but you know, we'll check that out one day. But yeah, then the second track, Never Say Never, another ripper, a solid 1-2 punch for those two tracks there in a row. Hello from the Gutter, third track. This one gets a bit more punky and kind of anthraxy, I suppose. It's slight change there, but then the next one, Mad Gone World. I want to even say that. That's a thrash attack of just double kicks and meaty chugs, so we're back in familiar territory again. Brain Fade, that's kind of the funny one. Has a bit of a Testament feel to it, and you know, some funny lyrics. There's a middle part there that's got like a, I don't know, it seems to be like a guy complaining. I don't really know what's going on there. It's in the lyrics, like it's actually written down in the lyrics. There's sort of like this weird speech or something going on, and it's kind of a humorous thing. I don't know what's going on, but anyway, it is what it is. And then we go into Drunken Wisdom on side 2, heavy as balls. It's got that sort of really thick bass chunk that you would hear in more like 1991 thrash going forward. Just heavy as, it's just dun dun dun, like bone rattling sound to it. Very, very good. The track explores a few different sort of sub-styles in there. It's a particular favourite for me on the album. And then, yeah, we've got End of the Line, another good track, Head First. That one's got, again, a bit more of an Anthrax feel to it. Lots of bass-only twang, and then some gang shouts creeping into it. It's a fun track. The final track, though, Overkill 3, Under the Influence. That is obviously part of the Overkill series. On part 2, they did that on Taking Over, the second album, which I don't have, and the first part was on Feel the Fire, their debut. So, you know, connected in some way. I'm probably just lyrically. But that's a savage song. Very angular riffing on that one. Has a really great chorus to it. So, yeah, Overkill, Under the Influence. Fantastic album. Big slab 80s thrash here. The real ripping stuff. Got some chugs to it. It's got some fast riffs. It's long to it. 48 minutes. It's quite a long thrash album. Take a look in here. We got a picture sleeve, lyric sleeve. There's the Overkill back. Lyrics there. There's a bit of a photos there of the guys. And look at this wacky guy here on bass there with a cigarette hanging out. It even looks Anthrax. Yeah, absolutely furious drumming going on there, ripping guitars. Awesome stuff. And Overkill, Under the Influence. Really, really good album. And look, maybe I'll check out the one after it again and see if my memory of the vocals is correct, because it was some time ago. And I'll reappraise it. But for the moment, Under the Influence, I'm definitely under its influence. The next one and the last one for this update, the one that ties it all together, quite a special one. I was after this for some time and had it in my Discogs wish list. Did the routine checking of that wish list at, about 8 a.m. in the morning. It was there. It wasn't there the night before. Add to cart, checkout. Not the kind of thing I see in Australia very often, so I was very happy to pick this one up. We're talking about Kinetic Dissent. I Will Fight No More Forever. What a great title on that one. Fantastic cover art on this one too. Really nice painting. I Will Fight No More Forever. One and Done band out of Atlanta, if you've not heard of these guys. This was released in 1991, quite late in the thrash cycle, but the band had some demos going back to 87 or so, which makes this quite a refined and strong debut straight out of the gates. They have, they've honed their skills over those demos and just absolutely landed it on this debut. Mid-paced, chunky, groovy thrash, because this is 1991. We're moving a little bit from being pure ripping stuff all the time. And it's got a bit of a progressive angle to it as well, which is really good. It's demonstrated a bit by sort of the use of some keyboards, or there's some synth or something in there, adds some flourish to these tracks. A 5-piece band on this album. Not that you can see them on the back there, but it is a 5-piece band. Definitely adding to the technicality. Having the dual guitars absolutely helps. The first track on this one, where are the tracks on the back here? There we are. The first track is called One. No, it's not. That's side one. It's called Cults of Unreason. I should do some research. That track, I get a lot of sort of heathen sound out of them, like the second album particularly. But maybe a bit more restrained. They're not that ripping speed that Heathen were getting to. As I said, it has pulled back a little bit, these guys, and a bit more progressive. Maybe also the Sophomore from Anacrusis, or say Endless War from Realm. They would be good comparisons, I think, for what you're getting on this album. And on that particular track, the second track, Banished, that has a nice bridge in the middle before the last verse that breaks down to like bass and drums only. Before the keyboard and melody and the guitars and the riffage comes into it. It's a really nice build up on that one. The third track, Melanin, opens with this is a weird one, opens like a jangly riff, kind of funky drums. Feels heavily inspired by that sort of alternative rock 90s scene that was emerging. Like Mike Patton style Faith No More or something. Kind of threw me off a little bit. I ended up enjoying it, but it was not what I was expecting. But yeah, it's a good track. It's just feels very out of place a bit there. But then it's followed up by this track called 12 Angry Men. That is another belter of thrash riffs. That last one feels quite out of place. But it's only short. The Melanin's only shorter than 3 minutes, but 12 Angry Men, that's another heavy good one. And then Social Syndrome, another good track, but side 2, the opener and the title track, I Will Fight No More Forever. That is an instrumental, has like tribal drums, sort of a Dead Can Dance vibe going on. It's a little unexpected, but it really worked. It was nice as a side B opener, kind of just lowers you in gently to that second side. And it gets into the heavy metal part of it, it's not all tribal drums. As it gets into that remaining instrumental, it adds on what is pretty typical for the 90s thrash scene. News bite quotes, sounds from the news, just recordings of horrible events going on. Happens on so many albums in this time. They put that into that track. And the track just gets heavier and heavier as it goes on, and it remains an instrumental. It's a really good one. The next track is called Novocaine Response. It has a lot of pep to it, feeling very progressive and speedy at the same time. And again, this one, like I said on the last album, some sort of Anthrax-style gang shouts, quite prominent bass get into that track as well. The final track on the album is called Reworked. It's a 7-minute long journey, starting with a really heavy bass guitar notes. Moving on to then a bit of a bass guitar doodle, accompanying sort of kick drums. It's a nice build up again. Almost felt like something like, it's progressive, something like Goblin might have done, more traditional progressive rock band. But then it gets heavy and goes into many, many places. Quite musical and has really great leads on it. So really great outro on that one. And yeah, overall, this album is just another good example of progressive, I suppose, thinking man's thrash or speed metal or heavy metal or whatever you want to call this. Progressive metal is probably what it's best referred to as. The band members, though, these guys here, no photos, they don't appear to have done much before or after. I think one was in a demo band or something, but yeah, Kinetic Dissent just seemed to get these guys together, do one album, and they did some demos, did an album, but no other bands. So yeah, a bit surprising given the caliber of the skills on here. So yeah, whatever. The lyrics all on the back here, pretty unusual. You can actually sit there in the shop and read all the lyrics. Your mum could read the lyrics and say, well, I'm not buying that, it's got the word F in it. Anyway, take a look inside. We get no, there's no lyric sheet, is there? Because we just looked at the lyrics, just the inner white thing. Unexciting, but it is the Road Racer pressing from 1991. So yeah, happy to have this. Really enjoy playing it. Got the old Road Racer logo there on the bottom. And 1991 has the Stop the Madness drugs thing that the Road Racer always did at that time. Yeah, Kinetic Dissent. I Will Fight No More Forever. Really, really good album. Happy to add it to my collection. And the last one for this update. So there you go. Hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully I can get some more OG type vinyl in and not leave it many, many months until the next one. But it's all down to the market, what I can find, and what I can find at a good price. So we'll see where we go with that. Hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, please like, subscribe. Check the links in the description for where you can hear some of this stuff. Check out this guy. Check out this guy. See you next time.